Yes, yes, yes. How's it going? Whew. Another day, another bike ride. It's sunny. You see, it's not dark or gloomy like my last one. But man, I don't know. It's a Friday out here. These kinds of Fridays are like some of the things you get to live for. It's funny that you only have a limited amount of them, right? So there's a limited amount of summers you're gonna get. At least the summers you get to enjoy in the same level. And then out of all those summers, there's only a limited amount of Fridays. Hopefully, you don't have to count Fridays, but you know, it is what it is, and you gotta make the most of it. Honestly, you don't have to have the most. You just have to make the most of what you got. It's interesting. Like I'm biking out here. There's plenty of beautiful properties. There's plenty of beautiful, scenery, and it's easy to get resentful. Like, damn, why they got what I don't got? But it's not the key to happiness. I'm sure they're happy, and you can be happy not having like everything you see on TV. Maybe childish advice, but often overlooked. Anyway, so wanted to talk about something that I realized I've skipped over for a bit too long, and that's something that it has something to do with the identify principles that I guess I could say I only talked about once at this point, but you know the three I's, right? Identify, implement, and iterate. And so the identification, uh, you can look at it right on the surface level as something that you spot, something that you find. And I've kind of outlined it in that context as well, right? Like just find something you're good at, find something you're looking for, find something worth doing, find something you can be good at, right? And these are all positives. You're lacking something and you're looking for a positive, like you're looking to kind of like an electron, you're looking to add a charge to yourself. But you also have things that aren't very positive. You have to have these things. You know, again, not a religious person by any means, but religion definitely understood certain problems in humanity that we managed to pervert over time by not being actually very religious and not understanding its deeper principles, but at the same time, just by not having good translators and people who could interpret this knowledge for us. Nothing. There's nothing religious about what I have to say, but if you're having a hard time understanding what it means to have some defects and to be lacking in something, huh? Animals fighting. Then I would put to you the idea of sin, right? We often think of sin as something that you do, you transgress. You do something badly, you wrong somebody, you wrong yourself. And there are what, 7 of these deadly ones, but there's obviously way more than that. And you have to ask yourself, like, why? Yes, you know, they're there, but you have to ask yourself, like, why are they there? And at the same time, if anybody has heard any of this stuff, is like, why shall the sins of the father be passed on to the child? Like, seems like a disgusting thing to do from a point of view of purpose, where you're an intentional designer and you're saying, well, I'm gonna be the perfect one. Can nobody be else perfect like me? That would be stupid. Like, would I be stupid? How could I be stupid if I'm perfect, right? So you're basically saying, you motherfuckers, in order for you to never become perfect, I'm going to make each one of you hop your imperfection onto the next one. So you'll be able to reproduce, you'll be able to do whatever it is you do and suffer in peace, but you must never somehow achieve perfection. But that still doesn't really explain what is the sin that is being inherited. Well, as far as I can tell, and anybody can tell, nobody really knows what they meant when they wrote this stuff in religious texts. But if I look at it scientifically, and I think about what the inheritance of sin and its deadliness is, is you're inheriting those characteristics. You're inheriting those traits. We all inherit lust. We all inherit some kind of gluttony. We all inherit greed, wrath. They're not expressed equally in all people. Some people are angrier. Some people are more lascivious, hornier, I guess I should say. Some people just like to fucking eat. But what makes you do these things, right? What is built into you that makes you do these things? So that's one of the things you also have to identify. You don't just identify the positive things that you want to bring into yourself. You have to identify the negative things that are harming you. And no, you don't need to identify the sins. You already know you kind of have them. Like, you don't even have to be religious. You just kind of like take this at its face value, and like that's about it. But what you can identify, one of the things I would want to pitch to you to identify that you have as a built-in part of yourself, but the sins don't really cover it, is the idea of mental shortcuts. And mental shortcuts are a huge part of self-made guru book industries. You know, people like maybe Donald Trump, what are these YouTubers, the self-made millionaire YouTubers, what are they called? Tai Lopez, these kinds of people that, I mean, could be successful, but I mean, they are successful, I guess, in some sense, but they're peddling their success to you on a very different level. They're not offering you a 4-year university degree and an internship at their company. What they're offering you is a couple of hours at home before your bedtime and a secret to becoming their peers. What a fucking joke, am I right? I mean, if you think that you're going to become a millionaire by reading someone's book who became a millionaire, you've just identified a mental shortcut, and that's called trying to be fucking, well, I guess you could say you're trying to be greedy, but you're trying to be sneaky. It's not going to work that way because your mind is fooling you on a level you are not able to communicate, or it's not communicating to you. And that level is that it wants to achieve a goal. It's kind of identified an end point in some sense, which is it wants to be rich. You want to be rich, you want to be successful, you want to, I don't know, have the freedom to do what you want to do. So you're out there, you're looking around and you're like, how can I do this, right? How can I become successful? How can I become a productive and a respectable member of society? You look to others. First mistake. You look to successful people. It's not fully a mistake, because there is definitely some logic there, because you don't know where to start. So you're saying, these guys made it. I'm looking to emulate these guys. Where do I start? So you find a couple of people and you're like, okay, these guys look like they know what they're talking about. Obviously, if they made it, they know what they're doing. Big mistake. Logical fallacy. They made it. They don't want you to make it, in some sense. Now you're going to make it. They're going to have to compete with you. Why do they need to compete with you? It's not a zero-sum game, but it's not a game of rising tide floats all boats. If you are looking for a job, in that case, yeah, you could look to someone and say, hey, you found a job and I also want this job. And when there is a certain amount of people in an industry, it helps everybody out, right? Because now they can all work and get paid. But when it comes to people that achieve serious amounts of wealth by, in business or in art, entertainment, they usually don't want people poaching at their earnings. It's not logical. Think about it like comedians, for example. They're constantly on the lookout for other comedians stealing their jokes, and it's a thing. It happens. They go to each other's shows and they get. It's an inspiration in a way, but they would rather you not get it from them. All right, because look, do I need to explain it? I don't. I wouldn't really say it's adversarial like that, but without going off course, this is not something that is out there for you to peruse. So another logical fallacy, kind of like a greedy one as well, and kind of like narcissistic one, where like kind of the world is assembled for your pleasure and for your prosperity. It's kind of like when girls are like, they'll find a new girlfriend out. Well, when they find a new boyfriend and they're like, oh my god, it's meant to be, as if like the universe aligns itself in the right position so that she can find a boyfriend. Like, the amount of narcissism there is pretty intense. But long story short, you're dealing with what now? So you found a person you want to emulate, and then you're gonna say like, hey, what did this guy do? And this guy knows that you're doing that. They know that you're out there looking to emulate them. They know that you are now ready, you're willing to give something up for some kind of information that you think is valuable. Didn't make too much sense, the second part, but the first part did. They know you're out there, and they know you want a shortcut to their wealth. They know you want a shortcut to their wealth because they wanted a shortcut back when they started, but then they realized that there are no shortcuts. Sometimes there are. Again, everything I say should never be interpreted like yes or no. It's all a matter of chance. Sometimes it's really as small as a couple of percentages, but sometimes it could be 50. Roll your dice. Anyway, so they're out there and they know all they have to do, because now they've built up a brand. Now they know that the employers are coming to them. They're no longer going out there looking for jobs. Now they're turning jobs down. Now they're getting requests from all sorts of places, and now they have to say, okay, this is going to make me 10,000, this is going to make me 20,000. Now obviously 20,000 is more, but how about this? Maybe if I make 10,000 here, this is going to sustain my cachet, and I'm going to make even more on the long run, and then so on and so on and so on. So these guys now are just in this money-making mode that almost is like self-generating. So what are they going to do? They're going to say, okay, I can teach people how I became a famous businessman, a famous writer, actor. But they can't really teach you that. You have to understand that. You have to understand that your mind is creating stories and images that don't conform to the reality at present. Your mind is inferencing from what it sees, but it's pretty much stuck in the past in some sense when you're going by these guys' advices and so on. There are definitely some good advices, but a lot of times we don't take these because they're kind of generic. Work hard, spend 12 hours out of 14 reading, and I've done that kind of shit. Unless you're specifically doing things that are like somehow gonna make you lucky and get you money, all this effort, if it's not directed in the correct path, won't get you shit. You can be I know so many well-bred people, I know so many smart people, I know so many hardworking people that live modestly. They're not millionaires. I don't know if they live modestly by choice, but that's the two and two don't go together like you think it goes together. And that's what you have to understand. You have to understand that your mind is making shortcuts because really it doesn't have a fucking clue. And think about it this way. If let's say like this freaking guy Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Like he boosted his family's wine company, right? And then he did this social media marketing thing that made him a ton of money. You're already pretty far behind in the game. So emulating him is not the best idea. You can, get some real seriously good value out of it, but you should not be able to emulate him. Should not emulate him. And you shouldn't even be looking for stuff like that. Yeah, it's good to learn. Like, don't get me wrong. don't take this as an advice to say like don't go anywhere, sit at home and just think of only your own way of doing things and that's it, because everyone out there is trying to hustle you. That's not the case either. But I've seen many people with like the douchiest bookshelves, just filled with 6 habits of 7 successful people, 8 habits that you have to have if you want to make 10 million by the time you're 24. And they're all exploiting your mental shortcut. You're trying to get somewhere with the least steps possible. You can, but have your dice handy is all I'm saying. So yeah, I think I've been doom and gloom enough. Should I make a confession? I will. You think I've stopped looking for good advice? I think you can find wisdom and inspiration in everything. I think you can talk to a 10-year-old kid and they can say something because they're, I don't know, so naive and so pure that they'll say something and you'll be like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? And you can have an amazing inspiration. Or you can go to like one of those pyramid scheme seminars and you can figure something out there. But just know that it's still on you. When you read 20 books of 16 highly successful millionaires, you're not gonna be one of those guys in the books just by reading it. You're gonna have to go through a shit ton of poo-poo and rolling some more dice. And you have to always be aware. You have to always identify this mental shortcut that your mind wants to do things as quickly as possible with as little energy as possible, and it wants to protect you by any means just so that you can do a little bit of that. Have a kid and then it's kind of like whatever. Well, I think it still wants you to raise the kid, right? So identify this. Identify your mental shortcuts. Identify places. Learn to identify places where you're trying to get a bit too good of a deal. That's really a good. That's how all scams work. They work. None of the scams are clever. I mean, they're somehow clever, but none of them are so clever that they manage to trick you on a very intellectual level. That's a big misunderstanding with people. And I'm gonna have to say something. Give myself some credit. First, I think Aristotle said that man's a rational animal. Then someone else, I think Hobbes, said man's a political animal. I think man is a storytelling animal. And that storytelling is extremely, extremely, extremely powerful. It's more powerful than logic. It's more powerful than politics, because stories can really grab you. Stories can really persuade you. Stories can distort reality. And they can make you think that you're in a different place while you're standing right here. So identify when your mind is telling you a story, and don't believe everything it says. Good luck out there, It's a cruel world, but right now it's beautiful. I want to keep writing. So cheers.